Therapy dudes, take away your stress, put you in a good mood. If you had them over, they would eat up all your food. It's time for therapy dudes.
What's up? This is Therapy Dudes. I'm Dan Fox with Andre Karkamaz. We are entering into a new chapter. The next 4 weeks, we're going to be doing 8 podcasts on parenting.
Oh, I just got to stop you. It's not Carcamaz, it's Carcamaz.
It's
I just feel
not
like you should get it at this
Karkamaz.
point. It's not, there's no Maz.
There's
It's
no
not MOS or MOC. Just get it right, Dan. Get it right. That's
Andre
like Kaz.
on Andre Karkamaz.
Okay, well, that we're gonna have to address that.
We're gonna have to
There's
address
something wrong in the brain there. It's okay. I understand. You've been struck.
Maz, not
Maz.
Maz. Okay,
Yes.
okay. I will actually
Every
try to
white
get this
person in
right.
my life says Maz. I don't get it, but it's okay. I love white people, so we're good. I think I'm white too. I don't. Anyway,
You might be white passing, but
yeah.
I think when you have the beard,
Uh-huh.
it emphasizes the Middle Eastern Armenian side of you.
Well, I'm Eastern European. I'm Jewish. I'm Middle Eastern, but I'm actually 52% Italian. I didn't know that.
Wow.
I took the genetics tests.
I mean, that means that like one of your parents was 104% Italian. So how'd that happen?
I don't think that that's how it works. Stop confusing. This is just about saying my name properly. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Andre Karkamas.
Okay, okay. We tried. We tried. I'm sorry to cut you off. It was very important. We're talking about parenting, right?
Oh my gosh. We should probably just restart the whole
Should we just restart it?
I think we need to push through. We should just
Let's push
push
through.
through and be professional properly
Oh God.
so that
Okay.
people get some benefit. Because we do want to get into this topic. It's a big one. I've had a lot of conversations with fathers, and the the common theme that I hear from a lot of dads is this idea that back in the day,
Uh-huh.
like in our father's generation, there was sort of this more traditional roles going on where as a father, you were kind of meant to like go out into the world, make the money,
Mm.
and come back home and then kind of kick up your heels and, not really take care of the kids, not really cook or, take care of the house, but like your work was
Unless you're
out
grilling.
unless what?
Unless you're grilling, then it's okay to cook.
Yes, or like working on a car or something, right? Or
Right,
like
right.
doing like plumbing repairs. But the idea was that there was sort of like this clear division of roles, like outside the house, inside the house, and mom was doing inside the house and dad was doing outside the house. I don't think that was actually true of my parents, right? I think it was much more blended. They were both working full time, so it
Right.
didn't actually pan out that way. But the narrative that I'm hearing is that now as dads, it's like, well, we're still expected to go out into the world and be like the primary breadwinner. But now we're supposed to come home and then do at least, 50% of the home stuff, whether it's like supporting the kids or doing household chores or trying to like, get kids ready for their school day and do driving to sports afterwards. And that somehow on top of all that, we get told that we're doing it wrong and we aren't appreciated for what we're doing. So
Ah.
there's this kind of sense for dads that we're just not appreciated and doing more than our share and getting no credit for it.
Well, well, yeah, more than our share in a sense, but also women have entered the workforce a lot more than the generations prior. Like you're talking about a generation. I mean, your generation was a long time ago when you were a kid. So so there was like it was just teetering on like both people were working. But same with my parents. My mom and dad were working full time, going to school. You know, they got their PhDs, and my mom got two masters. My dad got his PhD in mechanical engineering. My mom got her master's in civil engineering, and they both entered the workforce. And what I remember, and it's also a cultural thing. What I remember is they both cooked a lot, you know. But yeah, my mom would do the majority of the cleaning. My dad would kick his legs up and watch TV. Um, I think it's important to understand like what are the expectations of fathers now? Like what is actually going on? I get conflicting messages as a father myself. Like um, you know, I felt like I was told I'm doing not enough constantly. You know, even if I felt like I was going above and beyond and I was exhausted, um, and I couldn't tell why.
Yeah.
Um, and I hear a lot of that from my clients who are fathers, and it is kind of confusing, isn't it? Like it's kind of confusing to figure out like what is our role now, like fully. Like are we not doing enough? Are we doing enough? I don't know.
Right. Well, and I think somewhere in there is this kind of like spectrum between, on the one hand, resentment for, the fact that we've had to give up our hopes and dreams to, raise a family, and that, now we'll never be able to do the things we want to do as hobbies that we were, enjoying or good at in the past, and that our career is compromised because we can't, you know, shoot for the stars since we have to like change diapers and,
Mhm.
take kids to doctor's appointments. Um, and on the other side of the spectrum is this like sense of gratitude and appreciation and connection and the opportunity to like be a father and have kids who love us and need us, and that there is a clarity of role, I feel like, that happens when you're a father that I don't think we get necessarily when we're not in that role, when we're just sort of like, out in the world, making our way,
Yeah,
living, having a career. It's like, sure, we could identify as like whatever that career is, or, identify with whatever our like hobbies are as somebody who's, into whatever. Um, but that's, I think that's much more vague than the role of being a dad. Like, it is very clear, if your child is like in pain crying, like what your role is.
right.
And that that's that's been something that I know guides a lot of people in terms of like making decisions throughout their, days, or bigger decisions that, span,
Yeah, it becomes about
long-term
the
consequences.
family. Yeah,
Yeah. Right. And it's like how you spend your time, how you spend your money, what's important. And
right.
I think fatherhood provides a tremendous amount of structure and responsibility, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. In fact, I feel like we want to, as fathers, try to choose to be grateful that we have this responsibility and we have
Yeah,
this role, because the alternative sucks, right? And
right.
I've been there for, many years, right? I have four children, and as of April 4th, they're all going to be teenagers.
Oh, you
So
poor guy.
it's right, exactly. But there is a potential to just air my resentment narrative about, how I've had to like compromise so many things for these ungrateful wretches, and that I'm the maid around the house and the dishwasher and the taxi driver, and
Yeah,
you
the
know,
Uber. Yeah,
all so they can just, play on their phones and get bad grades. Um,
I know it doesn't feel rewarding at that point, right? I think that we get a big sense of purpose and meaning. I do think that there is an inherent like biological trait in most men, right? Where they want to be the protector, where they want to feel like they are. I think family gives us a great deal of purpose and meaning. And I think it's important to recognize like the gratitude we have to our partners for allowing us to have that experience and have a family and um, to the position we're in. But I think what a lot of men are struggling with that I'm hearing about is this lack of like respect or gratefulness. And I looked up a study recently, and it said that, men who don't feel respected typically end up having a lot of interpersonal issues with their families. It hits men a different way than it hits women, apparently. I mean, it hits women too, don't get me wrong, but I think the study showed that for women it was like emotional safety or something like that. Men, it's about appreciation and respect. So, I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but
Well, I think that that's like if we are operating from this sense of a deficit that, there's something unfair and
yeah,
unbalanced, then it's it's going to be really easy to find things in our day and in our interactions that reinforce that. And the challenge with our adult brain is that we don't have to intentionally practice resentment or feeling disrespected or like things are unfair, right? That kind of negative storyline is something that our like overthinking brain will naturally go to fill up the space. So when you talk about being grateful for your partner or grateful for the, sense of purpose, that like gratitude has to be practiced, right? That's not something that our brain will quickly just gravitate towards when there's a little extra space. We
right.
want to intentionally think about how to be noticing things that we appreciate in our interactions with our family and how to be intentional about wanting to connect and wanting to cherish the time and feeling like we're creating this like space in our home that is uplifted and meaningful for our kids. And I feel like if we have this sense of appreciation and cherishing the moment and being grateful for what we're experiencing, that if we lead with that, I think we're in a different place. But if we lead with the narrative that we are, getting stepped on and aren't appreciated and are working way harder than anybody else in the family and that it's not fair, then that's going to be our experiential reality. And it's not like either one of those is wrong, but I remember when I
It's what you
first
focus on.
say again,
It's what you focus on that changes your own outlook.
it's what you focus on. Yeah. Right. I remember when I first moved to Hawaii, the person who picked me up from the airport said, some people see rain, some people see rainbows. It just depends on what you're looking at, what you're focused on. And
Oh, I love
that
that.
that was her like intro to Hawaii for me. And I was like, well, I hope I always, notice the rainbows because I think life is like that. And there's
It
some really
is.
hard aspects of life. But at the same time, I feel like not only do we have this role that we can embrace, but fatherhood kind of forces us to set goals around how we want to be as a father. And we have to do internal work on our relationships. And, if we were parented in a way that wasn't optimal, we got to kind of go back and look at that. If we're communicating in a way that is sort of passive aggressive or just straight up aggressive or straight up passive, I'll get into what those mean. So right? They say that the optimal communication style is assertive, which is basically bring this kind of warmth and caring and acceptance to our interaction with our family.
Yeah. While
Aggressive
holding strict
is just
boundaries.
like
Yeah.
demanding conformity, demanding respect, being very like forceful and often scary with our interactions. Passive is just kind of avoiding conflict, avoiding interaction, sort of tuning out, getting on our screen, being kind of like, distant, having
Yeah.
excuses to like leave the house and go do our own things. Passive aggressive, that's a tricky one. There's a couple of different ways that can show up. One is where what we say verbally and what our nonverbals are in terms of tone or body language
I'm
aren't in
fine.
sync. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Fine. No, I'm not mad. Right. Like, yeah. Oh, you did such a good job on that test. Good work. Right. Like,
Well,
there's,
that actually almost sounded genuine, but like, oh, you did such a good job on that test.
yeah, bravo for showing up for school. Uh,
Yeah. Oh God.
so that can be part of it. But another way that passive aggressive energy kind of plays out is that we like flip flop. It's like we won't address an issue that's annoying to us or that we feel like is, inappropriate for a while. Oftentimes, this is our kids on screens, right? We
Yeah.
just sort of ignore it, tolerate it, tolerate it, tolerate it. And then, like, that's it. Ching, and we just like sort of unleash the like hounds and come down on our kid with a whole bunch of new rules and yelling and frustration. So
That
it's
never
like,
stick.
yeah, 9 times out of 10, they can get away with whatever the behavior was. But then, like, oops, a 10 rolls and we just really
Really.
like throw down the hammer. And that's not um, consistent in a way that it teaches like healthy boundaries and healthy choices for our kids. It's
But how would you be assertive in that case? That kind of communication style. How would you implement that?
so the things that you feel like are important to boundary, whether it's chores around the house, getting to bed at a certain time,
Yeah.
certain academic responsibilities, screen boundaries, we want to have some consistency with that. Right?
Okay.
We're either consistent like the school bell or we're inconsistent like a slot machine. So a school
Ooh,
bell rings and 1,000 kids get up and walk to the next place because
they
since
know
the
what's up.
beginning of their academic career, right, the bell rings and that's what happens. It's not like, oh, you're having a bad day. We won't ring the bell right now. It's like, no, I'm busy. I didn't ring the bell. No, at every single time it rings and everybody gets up and everybody does this. I try to get my 4 kids to come down to dinner
Well,
and I can't make that happen.
you
But
got to get a school bell. That's it,
I need,
bro.
I need a school bell that rings and then dinner is
Every
served and then it comes off the table 20 minutes later and they miss
people
it.
know. Yeah.
Right? So the alternative to that is the slot machine, which is the like, mm, you never quite know when the payoff or the consequence is going to be. A lot of times you can sort of, not do your homework, stay on your screen longer, not do your chores, and then like bam, one time there's a sort of like big result that's negative. And
Yeah.
most of us accidentally are,
Fun to this.
doing some version of the slot machine.
I think it's because we get tired. We get tired of like enforcing things and trying to figure out how to take care of ourselves and trying to figure out all the hardships. Both parents, like parents are dealing with a lot. You
Yeah.
even with one kid, it's a lot. You got four. I mean, you know, good luck. You're doing great. I'm surprised you're not gray yet. But I think it's hard to be consistent because a part of it also feels like, I don't know, like we're creating a negative outcome. Like that's how I feel at least when I'm always every single time I see something happening that I know that shouldn't be happening, I call it out. I feel like a bad person almost, you know?
Yeah.
Like hey, we talked about this and then, there's the moping and the why and all that and you just end up being like, God, I just wanted peace tonight, you know?
Right. Right. So that's where I feel like you've got to look at these boundaries that you want to have and the rules in place for your kids and get clear on, because if you're going to enforce it at all, it should be consistent. There should be some way, and it might be, hey, once a week, we're going to get on your phone and we're going to look at the screen time usage. And if it's above this amount, you're going to have a day off.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
And that can be consistent. And it's just like, once a week during our like weekly check-in about how life is going. Same kind of thing with homework. It could be like once a week, we're going to get on Infinite Campus and we're going to look at where your grades are at and we're going to look at your missing assignments. And if this is happening, cool. And if it's not happening, then over the weekend, sorry, you're not going to have your phone. Or, before you do anything, you're going to have to get all your
This
missings.
is a topic we come to a lot. It's like we're really hammering this in for our viewers, but I'm thinking about this from a father's perspective, and I'm thinking about my daughter's mom and how much better she is at doing this than I am.
Mm,
And
I was
and what
noticing that too.
oh God. Thank you. And then I was just wondering, like what is like we're in the context of what we're talking about, and since we're talking about fatherhood, do you feel like fathers fall short in this realm more often than not? And do you feel like we have like an obligation here that isn't being met or that isn't being spoken? That, maybe I feel like in my circumstances, yes, I work 7 days a week right now, and I have for years. Um, and for me, that kind of justified for me, like I don't want to deal with stuff at the end of the night. Um,
100%. Yeah. Well,
and I feel like maybe that's wrong. Like it's not because I don't care. It's because I'm exhausted.
right. Well, I also think that there's this sense of, when we go and work for, 8 plus whatever hours and then come home,
Right.
there's this like sense that like, all right, I've just like done my day. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want to do some self-care. Like this is me time. And then we
There's
walk in the
almost
door,
none. Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
just feel like there's almost no me time. And I guarantee she feels the same way. I
Right.
guarantee actually she says it.
Well, and that's I feel like that attitude is really not functional in the situation that like this is me time because it actually isn't, right? It's just
Right.
a different kind of not me time. And if we can figure out how to enjoy that process, then we can get a little like, personal benefit and sense of satisfaction from the experience. But we are caregiving when we get home, when we
Yeah.
have children.
I
And
th I
the
think it helps when the partner wants to look, this goes kind of back to the pact model a little bit, where like a good greeting from your partner, like a loving like check-in in the beginning, can really go a long way. And I'm talking about both guys and girls, right? This
yeah,
is like a gender thing. And like getting on the level of the children, looking them in the eyes, giving them a hug, how was your day? I noticed for me that changes that experience, right? If
yeah,
I go in and I just want to block everyone out, I don't say hi to anyone. I go to the room. I go to it. It makes it so it feels like I'm trying to selfishly get me time. And there is no such thing in a family unit when two parents need to come together, I feel like, I don't think any parents really getting too much me time.
right, right. Well, and I think that if we look at our behaviors at work,
Right.
I never lose my cool at work.
Oh, I do all the time.
You might be in
I'm
the wrong
kidding.
field, sir.
No kidding.
No, but I never lose my cool the way I can at home, right? Like the way
Or at me.
I
Yeah.
never talk to my clients the way I've talked to my kids, right? I've
Right.
never like just pissed off and annoyed and running my mouth. Like,
We're not saying hi.
right? And that kind of thing I think is important to recognize is that we we consciously or unconsciously put on this like self-boundarying energy when
Yeah.
we go to work to make sure that we are like functional and crushing it.
Right. And we're giving other people outside of our family our best version.
Yes, yes. And then we get home and we become selfish. And
Yeah.
that's not
It's
even a
emotional labor.
conscious choice. It's just this like sort of narrative of like, oh, I've just exhausted myself. I deserve something. And if we could somehow figure out how to really like look into like what do we need for self-care and what can we reasonably expect when we get home, I think that would help to just adjust the narrative. And I want to get
I
into that more in our next podcast when we kind of personalize
sure.
things and talk about our own experiences because um, yeah, I've got a lot to share about that particular journey. We should probably wrap this
Okay.
one up. But before we do, two things.
Right.
One, we are sponsored by Boulder Psychological Services. Check out Boulder Psychological Services for all things therapy related.
Killed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
And
like
and second thing, I want you to tell me which laugh you like better. Number one
oh
or number two?
oh my God, I hate both. Whichever one feels less creepy to you.
Well, that's definitely the first, right? The
Yeah.
second one is total clown creepy. All right, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. We will see you next time.